Hello, welcome back to Mrs. Torres' YouTube channel. Coming to you live again from my house. So if you hear dogs, I apologize. They are sleeping pretty peacefully right now, but any little noise can disturb them. All right, we already have notes on parallelograms, but I just want to give you a little refresher before you practice this on your own. So if you want to just take these notes on a separate piece of paper, that is fine. All right, at the top of this paper, I just reminded us of the properties of a parallelogram. Those are in your notes. You do not need to memorize them. You just need to know how to use them. All right, next. This is my second time recording this video. The first time I messed up, so that's why my paper looks a little messy, but we will work with it. So I'm going to tell you that this is a parallelogram, even though it might not necessarily look like a parallelogram because I drew it freehand at my house. But I'm going to tell you it's a parallelogram, and I'm going to ask you to find x, y, and z. So let's start with x first. We know x is right down here. Well, so we're thinking angles. So we know opposite angles are congruent. We know consecutive angles are supplementary. Well, check that out. We've got some opposite angles. So that means if this angle up here is 73 degrees, what's this angle down here? That is also going to be 70 degrees. And then we're looking at y. So y, we don't know what angle it's opposite of. However, we know it's next to or consecutive to these 73-degree angles. So that means if we take 180 minus 73, we'll get y. So y is 107 degrees. Last thing we're looking for is z. My z's look a little funny because I put a little line through it because they look exactly like my 2's. So this side here is 2z minus 1, and this side is 11. Well, what do we know about opposite sides? They're parallel. That won't really help us here. And they're congruent. So we can say that 2z minus 1 equals 11. Add 1 to both sides. Remember our solving equations review from yesterday. Divide both sides by 2. You'll get z equals 6. All right, next one we've got here looks like this. This time we are going to try and find the measure of angle A. So this angle here is what we're looking for. All right, we don't know too much about it yet, but let's think about our properties. So we do know angle B and angle C. Well, are they consecutive or opposite? They're across from each other. They're opposite. And what do we know about them? They're congruent. So we can take these two expressions, excuse me, x plus 40, and set it equal to 3x plus 10. And then we just solve it like we normally would. So let's subtract x from both sides. We'll get 40 equals 2x plus 10. Then we subtract 10 from both sides. We'll be left with 30 equals 2x. Remember, our last step is divide by that coefficient. So x equals 15. Okay, cool. So x is 15, but that isn't going to necessarily help us get the answer. Like, we're not done, right? That's not what it asked for. That will help us, but it's not our answer. We're trying to find the measure of angle A. All right, so normally we're like, let's plug it in. Well, we don't have an expression here, but we could plug it in right here, right? So we could find the measure of angle B to be 15 plus 40, or that would make it 55, right? And then A and B are next to each other, which means they are consecutive angles, and they're supplementary. That means they add to 180. So I could take 180 and subtract 55, and I would get 125 degrees for the measure of angle A. You got it. All right, last one. I actually did not draw this picture, but let me roughly draw another parallelogram. Very rough, I know. Now, let's say I've got some diagonals. Whew, yeah, rough. Should have used my ruler, but that's okay. All right, so I've got A, B, C, D, and E. If I told you that AE is 2x plus 5 and EC is x plus 10, could you find x? So we got to look back on our notes, or in my case, the front of this paper. What do we know about diagonals? They bisect each other. We have to remember what bisect means. Bisect means it splits it in half. So that means right here, this diagonal is being split in half, which means AE is congruent to EC. So that means we can set these equal to each other. So 2x plus 5 equals x plus 10. Let's subtract x from both sides. We'll have x plus 5 equals 10. Subtract 5 from both sides, and we've got x equals 5. All right, that is it for our refresher today. There is a parallelogram properties video in the chapter 6 folder that follows along with your notes. If you don't have those, you can watch that video as well. All right, I'll see you when I get back.